This is Bradford on Thursday, the 10th of April, 1902, filmed from the front of a tram. This film was made by the early filmmakers Sagar Mitchell and James Kenyon. It's just one of hundreds of their films recently discovered in a cellar in Blackburn, Lancashire. The films were nearly lost forever. They take us to the world of the real Edwardians, in a way our generation has never seen before. We will find out who these people were and what their lives were like. These films open a wonderful window into the lives of the men, women and children who appear in them. They show us how they had fun, how they played sport, how they relaxed, what they got up to on holiday. When Mitchell and Kenyon shot these films at the dawn of the 20th century, they captured the essence of the times. Industry was going at full pelt. People were in work and so had more money than ever before. For the first time, they actually went on holidays and had half a day off each Saturday. They even had spare cash to enjoy their leisure. Life in the cotton mills and industries about the country was looking up. It wasn't Mitchell and Kenyon's aim to make an historic record of Edwardian life. Moving film had only recently been invented. They weren't in it for the sake of art. They did it to entertain and to make a profit. The man standing by the gate in a Trilby is James Kenyon, aged 51, seen here directing the crowd from a local spinning company. He'd already made a living from cabinet making and penny in the slot machines, where he was known as a quiet, retiring man. Directing the action obviously awakened his more outgoing side. Kenyon threw his lot in with inventive young entrepreneur Sagar Mitchell, who'd been running a photograph shop with his father. Together, Mitchell and Kenyon set out to make their fortune in the risky film trade, using the advertising slogans, local films and we take them and make them. Up until the late 1990s, only a tiny handful of Mitchell and Kenyon films were known about. All this was about to change. Builders were stripping out a shop when they discovered 3 metal churns in the basement full of old film. They were about to dump them in the skip. At the last moment, they handed them over to local film enthusiast Peter Worden. He realised immediately that this was a forgotten treasure of Mitchell and Kenyon films. He stored them carefully before donating the find to the nation. The British Film Institute took charge of the historic collection and painstakingly restored it. It took 3 years, but now the results are amazing. 100-year-old films with hardly a scratch. Many as clear as the day they were shot. This film shows a football match. Well, there's nothing to identify the teams, the date, the location of the game, beyond what I can glean from the image itself. The 2 teams, well, one has shirts with dark vertical stripes, whether they're blue, black is red, impossible to say. The other team has white shirts. Must be something here to inform me about what's going on. Ah, shot at goal. A save. Oh, yes. Goalie saves today. Absolutely charming. Now, oh my goodness me. Who is this huge goalie? The goalie in the other team with the vertical stripes. Huge fellow. Ah, oh, this is wonderful. He's taking a kick from goal. Here he goes, and he's running up. Oh, he almost fell over. No, he must have been a bit of a character. From the team's shirts, we can tell it's Sheffield United playing Bury, and the ground is unmistakably Sheffield's Bramall Lane. So we consulted the fixtures lists for the years that Mitchell and Kenyon did most of their filming, the early 1900s, which led us to guess at just a few possible dates. We went to the British Library's newspaper collection to check up on these. Some Mitchell and Kenyon films were well labelled with a date and a place, but others, like the Sheffield football films, are a bit of a mystery. I'm looking through the Sheffield Daily Telegraph for September the 8th, 1902. I'm looking for the sports pages. Ah, here we are. Football. So here is an account of that game. The League, Division 1, Sheffield United versus Bury. Cup holders win a poor game. Now, who are the cup holders? Let's look at the results. Ah, Sheffield United 1, Bury 0. So Sheffield are the cup holders who don't play very well. Now, who was that astonishing fat goalie? Here's the teams. Sheffield United. Oh, okay, here it is. In goal, a chap called Foulkes. Mr. Foulkes, the fat goalie. So that astonishing large man was called Foulkes. John Garrett's family have been watching Sheffield United from the club's earliest days, and he's an avid fan himself.
That would probably be the Kop side of the ground as we know it now, which would be behind the goal. My grandfather would have been sort of living in the vicinity of the ground and watching Sheffield United at this time. And it's interesting to think whether he'd be actually in the crowd here watching the game. Now, that's looking at Bramall Lane as we see it now, and the houses down the side of the John Street ones. But there's some incredible players out here. Just to see them actually brought to life. I mean, these are people who, prior to this, have really just been in books for us. That's Wilkinson, I believe. That'd be Herbert Chapman just coming on the goal there. That's Needham, who's Sheffield United England's captain. That's wonderful. There's Fatty Foulkes. I like the way he hutches the trousers up there. That's brilliant, that. So it covers up to the, just under the nipples there. Bang. William Henry Foulke, to give him his proper name, or Foulkes, depending on which spelling you see. Really, when he signed for Sheffield United in 1894, was 6'2", which in those days was very, very tall for a man. And he weighed, we think, 12 stones in weight, which I'm told is about average sort of size-to-height ratio. But with the more success that came to Sheffield United, with the League Championship, with the first FA Cup, the more success that we brought, then the bigger Bill got. And I think his girth tended to increase with the success of the football club. By the time the clip we'd just seen in 1902, Bill, we think, would have weighed about 24 stones as his fighting weight. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that the nickname of Fatty Foulkes was well earned by that. But legend has it that although he was 24 stones in weight and 6'2" in height, he was as agile as a cat. If you're a centre forward or a striker and you're coming through on goal and you're suddenly confronted with what can only be described as a mountain in a football kit, it must have been an off-putting thing. I mean, imagine standing up as a football player and trying to take a penalty against anybody built like that. His penalty record was absolutely phenomenal, but it's such an intimidating figure.
Fatty Foulkes, whose bulk was such an issue, is responsible for one of the most famous football chants, which is still used by fans today.
The chant of who ate all the pies is levelled at players out on the pitch who the away supporters think have probably piled a bit too much of the poundage on. Go at all the pies, go at all the pies. If you want to put "you fat bastard" in there as well, you can do, but I wouldn't advise it.
Football was a new passion for working men, even though it had been developed as an elite public school sport. By the end of the 19th century, it has swept the whole nation, particularly the industrial north. The reason why the football terraces shown in the films are so full is because working hours had been reduced. Most workers now had Saturday afternoons off as well as Sundays, so they could come and attend the games. In addition, wages had been increased so workers could afford the minimum entrance fee of sixpence. So they came here in their thousands, helping to create the Northern League of clubs, including Newcastle, Manchester United and Liverpool, teams that still dominate the Premier League. This scratchy, foggy film shows Burnley running out of the Players' Tunnel. But forget its quality, this film is a world exclusive. The second team is Manchester United. This is the first ever film of the most famous football club in the world. Mitchell and Kenyon filmed the match at Turf Moor, Burnley, on the 6th of December 1902. Manchester United are in their darker shirts, red as today. Burnley in lighter green, before they changed their famous claret and blue. Manchester United are playing in their very first season as Man U. They had been called Newton Heath and had almost gone bankrupt the previous year. A rich local brewer rescued the club and nearly renamed it Manchester Central before this was rejected as sounding too much like a railway station. The film was meant to be shown at the Burnley Mechanics Institute that evening. But Manchester United won 2-0, so the film was suppressed, the showing cancelled. The film has never been seen by an audience until now. It was a time before cinema, so normally Mitchell and Kenyon's films were shown in public halls or fairground tents. The films were, of course, silent. Sound effects came from a brass band, cymbals, or even real gunfire. Mitchell and Kenyon's method to draw in more punters for their sports films was to film not only the match, but the spectators themselves. So when the crowds flocked to watch the film that evening, they already knew the score. They just came for the highlights and to spot themselves on screen. It was more wedding video than Sky Sports. The problem was that Mitchell and Kenyon often failed to capture the best action in football and rugby. This film of Hunslet versus Leeds leaves a lot to be desired. The filmmakers needed a lot of light to film, and since kickoff was sometimes as late as 3:30, it often grew too dark in the winter to film the second half. Floodlights had been invented, but weren't widespread, so this film is pretty murky. And their equipment was clumsy. Cameras and tripods were heavy and stiff, so more often than not, they simply missed the main events. The final score was 16-0 to Hunslet, but Mitchell and Kenyon missed it all.